It is. Yeah.
軍司令部どういうこと？
だがな、悪い話ばかりでもないぞ。
There. Yes.
本当に僕の体が？
Oh, that excitement.
君は僕の魂じゃないから一緒に行けないって言われたけどな。
そうか、体はなんだ。よし。
おい、なぜその白黒猫がいる？
ああ、これ実はここに。
Ah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That adds up. The fool once again.
後のことはラースに任せてやる。あれな。
King Bradley. That means Scar is still down there, right? Or he's around.
ラース、大総統キングブラッドレー。俺たちと大総統だけ。
武器は剣一本のみ。
Oh, come on now.
それでも勝てる自信があるというのか。
大総統、まんまと騙されました。
首を突っ込むな。軍内部すべて敵だと思え。そう命じたはずだよ。君たちは我々にとって貴重な人材だ。
He's not wrong there.
余計なことは知らんでいい。
その時が来たら、俺たち人柱と呼ばれる者以外の一般人はどうなるんですか？
余計なことは知らんでいいと言ったはずだ。鋼の錬金術師。なんと言ったかな、あの娘。そう、ウィンディ・ロックベル。
He'll keep you in mind. He'll keep
リ
you in
ゼン
mind.
ブール生まれ。君たちの幼馴染で家族にも等しい存在。腕利きのオートメール技師。今はラッシュバレーで働き、客にも仲間にも恵まれている。素直ないい子だ。で、どうするね。いらんというなら切って捨てるな。マスタング大佐どうする？まさか軍を辞めるなどと言い出さんだろうな。
No.
そうですね。飼い犬になっても負け犬になるのは耐えられませんな。何より私の野望のために軍服を脱ぐこともこれを捨てることも今はできそうにありません。ヒューズを殺したのはあなたですか？
いや、私ではない。
では誰が？
一つという約束
Ah.
だ。
失礼します。
I mean, I'm sure he can
な
kind
あ、
of
待
deduce
ちた
it.
まえアルフォンス君。
Oh, the person inside of you? Whoa! She saw it coming.
いや、言ってよろしい。
危なかった。頭の上を。
注意。
いかがなされました大佐。顔色が悪いですぞ。
女性との待ち合わせ場所に筋肉ヒゲだるまが立ってて血色になる男がいるか。
大佐、
注意。
ご無事でしたか？あ、すみません。ホークアイ注意。ただいまお手洗いから戻りました。
逃げなかったのか？
何があっても諦めるなと言ったのはどこのどなたですか？
後で逃げた方がマシだったなんて言うなよ。注意。
何を今
The
更。
look.
エド？
Oh, okay, it was for a call. I thought he wanted to try out the
ま
alchemy
た
real
オート
quick.
メール壊したの？
ちげえよ。お前無事か？元気にしてるか？
Oh, that phone booth.
変わったこともないか？怪しいやつにつけられたりとかしてないか？
Does she look older?
エド、
なんだ？
気色悪い。だってエドが電話してくること自体珍しいのに、おまけに人の心配だなんて。やだ、ちょっと何これ。てめえ人がどんだけ。ありがとね。電話嬉しい。ありがとう。
あ、じゃあな。とりあえず無事だった。
こういう必死さがつけ込まれる好きになるんだよね。
Hey!
お前のダチに頼まれた。
リンに真の言葉か。なんて書いてあるんだ？
知らん。嫁。
Take it to
こいつを
Lanfan.
待ってる女に渡してくれとよ。
There you
ラ
go.
ンファ。
それに女と戦う趣味はね。俺は嘘をつかねえのを信条にしている。 じゃあな、頼んだぞ。
Yeah, Izumi Sensei came in and he was like, "Whoa, whoa, hold on, now I'm not gonna fight you."
グリードだ。
Ah, that's good. Yeah, that's gonna be an ongoing thing, isn't it?
Fullmetal Alchemist.
Ooh, okay, so a bit of Dr. Marco then. There he is. Oh, is he gonna find?
誰だ
Yes, he is. Dr. Marco.
誰かそこにいるのか
Oh. Oh.
怪我をしているのか降りてきてくれな
Oh
いか
God, this is.
外の状況が知りたいイシュバール人かその額の傷まさかお前がすか貴様は何者だ
Oh.
ここで何をしている
He's like, my luck.
神よ私もイシュバール殲滅に加担した錬金術師だ
しばらく安静にしてりゃ治るだろ
よか
う。よかねえ勝手に患者増やしやがってベッドとソファー占拠されて今日から俺はどこに寝りゃいいんだ
ごめんなさい
大体この娘二人も家の中
ダメだよまだ寝てなきゃ
No translation yet?
ランファン
賢者の石を手に入れたと。これで我が一族が。そうだ、一刻も早く国に帰って皆にこのことを知ら
Hold
せね
on,
ば。
hold on.
若はどこに。
体の調子はどうだグリード。
あんたがラースか。調子はいいぜ。皇帝になる力を手に入れたくて自ら俺を受け入れやがった。面白い野郎だ。
Yeah, he's had his run in.
誠の王とは何ぞやと、
Hmm.
その王子に問答したことがある。バカめ欲をかいて全て失ったではないか。
やかましい人間をなめるな
Whoa.
そういうわけよ。こいつ好きあらば俺を乗っ取ろうと虎視眈々だぜ。
化け物すらも飲み込もうというのか。どこまでも強欲な人間よ。
大総統がホモンクルスこんな戦いは間違っています閣下運命に背きかもうよい代わりの国家錬金術師を呼べイシュバールで我が輩は戦いから逃げました軍のやり方は間違っているそう
But
思
he's
い
not
な
gonna
が
run
ら
again. He's not gonna run again.
ですがその間違っている者とこそ戦うべきだ
Here's your chance.
今また軍が戦場というのなら我が輩一人どうして尻尾を巻いて逃げられましょうか
大総統が自らホムンクルスであることを私に明かしたということは自分を倒したとしてもまだ後ろがいると暗示したということだ試されているラストとかいうホムンクルスと戦った時もそうだったが兵器だ化け物だと言われる自分が本物の化け物と戦っている時にこそ己がただの人間であることを実感できるよ
アルフォンス、腕が欲しい。今すぐに。
そんなすぐだって
オートメール技師を紹介してくれ。頼む。
He knows the best one.
もう
Hey.
起きて大丈夫なのメイちゃんだっけ
メイ。
Hey.
何さすがヤオ家の番犬
そうい
Hey.
うお前はちゃんの後継。
Hey, calm down, calm
待って
down.
よなんだか知らないけど喧嘩はやめてって人の国の事情に口を出さないでください
Dr. Knox is not gonna like this, yeah.
こら病人はおとなしく寝てろてめえの国の事情なんか知るかバカ野郎これ以上うちを散らかしてくれるってのかおお医者の家から未知の病原菌が出て全員死亡あるよな
Hey.
先生これ
ん
Sensei.
ああこんなところにあったか
家族の写真じゃないんですか
別れた女房と息子だなんだよ俺のものをどうしようが俺の勝手だろうが
Okay, alchemy is good for now. It's back.
あれ、そういや術が使えてる。
自信満々で現場に入っておきながらいざ始めたら術が使えないってな。
Yeah, that's
午前
because
中俺たちが地下にいた頃か。ありがとう。エンビーの言ったことを本当に信じていいのか。
he's looking older as well, right?
肉体も精神もないただのエネルギー体だって。俺とあるだけじゃなく他の術師たちも錬金術が使えなくなっていた。でもあの豆女とスカーは使うことができた。
Yeah, he's looking older. Oh yeah.
俺たちのとは違う錬金術。その秘密を聞き出せば、あるいは賢者の石を使わなくてもあるの体を取り戻し、あのヒゲ野郎に対抗することが。
Yeah, I forgot to mention the chair.
私は奴らに協力させられてきた。賢者の石を作り多くのイシュバール人の命を奪った。
Ah,
そして
Lenny.
私はさらに多くの犠牲を出すであろう実験に協力させられようとしている。だから頼む、私を殺してくれ。今ここで私は死をもって奴らに一矢報いる。私には
Wow.
君が神のよう
That's
に
a powerful
見える。
scene.
まだイシュバールの話を全て聞いていないぞ。
Whoa.
貴様
That
は
look in his
あの
eyes.
時何をやった。全て話せマルコ。この右手が貴様を破壊するうちに。
Wow. Wow, I'm shocked that was a post-credit scene and not part of the episode. 'Cause, that was quite the scene. Right then, episode 29, that is quite the ending. First of all, I mean, it's not really the ending, is it? It's the post-credit scene. But you know, honestly, to me, it actually felt like the most impactful scene of the episode. I mean, some of the imagery there, you know, Dr. Marco on his knees, right? And you see the silhouette shot. You know, you here right now, your appearance here right now, you're like a god to me, right? Something along those lines. And, you know, Dr. Marco just could not believe his luck in that moment, right? Not in the sense that, oh, you know, I can be rescued. No. I mean, you know, his perception of luck at this moment in time is something else entirely because, you know, that reaction there. Though, of course, that was earlier in the episode, the first half of this. I'll just kind of combine the two scenes together, the post-credit and the first meeting. As he realizes that this is the Schwallen, right? The one they call Scar. You know, the gears start turning and, you know, that moment he starts laughing. Yeah, you know, I really just, I felt that, right? Because not only did he think, okay, now I can actually die, because this man, this Schwallen, Scar, is known for taking out state alchemists, you know, because of his whole crusade. And he's been quite indiscriminate about it, right? Though you see here, there's a bit of a shift now, right? Yes, he's really quite agitated, and I see that look in his eyes. And, you know, the last time I see that type of look is in some of those flashbacks, as he does end up killing the Rockbells, right? Yeah, but, you know, this time he's able to kind of control that anger. I mean, he still cuts quite the menacing figure in that state, but, you know, before he potentially takes out Dr. Marco, and I think, I don't know. I'm not even sure, you know, I'm not sure anymore. You know, say Dr. Marco tells him, and I mean, it's just the perfect setup, isn't it? For that flashback, that moment I've been really asking for some time now. Though, of course, this is going to be from Dr. Marco's perspective. Though, again, you know, even if it is Dr. Marco retelling his, or a retelling of his exploits, they could still kind of, you know, use that to actually give us a full-on flashback as well, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily just from his perspective. But yeah, you know, Scar really is the perfect audience surrogate at this moment in time, isn't he? He's going to find out, and some of these details are going to be tough to take, quite devastating, and for us, the audience as well. But yeah, you know, maybe a potential mini arc, couple of episodes, perhaps 2 episodes, hopefully kind of going into this flashback, right? It's an important moment for the series and the story to really give us a more definitive look at it. Though, of course, I'm sure even if I get a look at it in, you know, this potential retelling, I'm sure there's more of it down the line, right? More key moments to kind of add to it. But yeah, Scar, is he going to potentially kill Dr. Marco? Dr. Marco straight up asking for it. And this concept of Dr. Marco kind of considering the appearance of Scar as this god, right? It's essentially because he wants to be judged, right? He's wanted to be judged for a long time, right? Perhaps every single day since his part, in that genocide, essentially. And then, it's kind of mirrored by something Armstrong also stated. I have been ashamed of myself every single day since that day. And this takes me to the next point about the exploration of PTSD, trauma, struggles, struggling with your actions, unforgivable actions. And essentially, one of the things this story has kind of depicted is that anyone can become a monster. Anyone is able to take those actions, and, the fallout of those actions is certainly a focus of this anime, of this story. And, for that reason, I think, the exploration of PTSD and regrets and living with yourself after doing something unforgivable, something so out of character. I really enjoy that aspect of it. And, characters like Dr. Marco, Dr. Knox, some character that, and Armstrong, right? These limited appearance characters, though of course Armstrong has appeared a bit more than the other two. But, the fact that they are these limited appearance characters, limited screen time, it makes them that much more interesting and fascinating anytime they are on screen, because it is quite poignant. Anytime they are on screen, anytime they do make an appearance, it's it's the type of stuff that makes you kind of sit up in your seat, right? Because Arakawa is going to use that time, that limited screen time, to really make a poignant point. And I think it's been successful so far. I think she's been successful so far in doing so. These are fascinating characters, supporting cast. I've stated this so many times at this point, but it really is impressive. It really is impressive how much you can get out of so many of these supporting cast members, right? Because it's this enthralling story, right? In that sense, it kind of even reminds me of Dune, right? And that ensemble cast. But yeah, the role these characters on the sidelines play is quite substantial in understanding some of the humanity of all of this, right? Some of the struggles of all of this. Dr. Knox, I enjoy anytime he's on screen, right? Yes, maybe sometimes he's used for comic relief. His outburst might be used for comic relief, but that outburst, that hardened nature, I think it all plays a part. It all plays into that whole, struggle aspect of it, right? A lot of these characters, other than maybe Dr. Marco, but you see Armstrong, gentle giant, right? He's got this hard exterior, right? If it's someone who doesn't know him comes up against him, you'd be scared shitless, right? And a lot of times, even in this episode, they'll do this thing. They'll show him from like a low angle, and you can't see his eyes, and he really cuts a menacing figure. But he's not that at all, is he? He's not that at all. I love this character, Armstrong. I'm actually getting goosebumps. Like the hair on the back of my neck just stood up, thinking about Armstrong and his role in all of this and how he has struggled with all of this. Oof. This episode was really, really a big one for Armstrong, I think. That flashback of him holding that child in his arms. It's good to see. It's good to see. Because remember, who knows how long at this point, 10, 12 episodes ago, maybe I questioned Armstrong being a part of this military, ending up on that side, ending up having to do those things. Listen, they show him putting up the walls at one point. So the Schwallens get kind of, cornered in so they can't escape. I've seen the fire. I've seen Mustang's fire. I've seen the wall. Of course, I've seen Kimberly in action, though that madman loved every second of it. More on Kimberly, hopefully soon. And, it feels good to know that indeed I was on the right track about Armstrong, right? And him feeling so out of place here. His disposition, as Mustang also kind of hinted at here, right? Maybe you should quit. This is not, given the way you are, your morals, your ideals, maybe this is the right time to quit. But, the big shift here, he has so many regrets. First of all, of course, taking part in those atrocities, but also making the choice to walk away from it. That haunts him. That haunts him every single day. And you could tell. I thought, the voice acting is beautiful here. The dialogue was beautiful here. It's a poignant moment, man. I think it's a standout moment of the series. This Armstrong scene. But you know, I said he's had limited screen time, but now after that moment, you could tell he's going to be seen much more. He's going to be around much more, right? Essentially, he has joined the fight because he has pledged himself to this battlefield, right? And again, one of the great moments of the series. You know, not often do you get a chance to kind of right the wrongs, to have that second chance. Not everyone gets a second chance, right? Yes, you know, joining this fight, it can never erase the things that, you know, he had to do back then, right? Or it actually applies to all of them. And of course, you know, I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, only Armstrong is the one here who really stood up for his ideals, even though he did. You know, let's not forget that. Let's not kind of, you know, brush that aside either. Let's focus on that as well, that he did stand up to that. And essentially, you know, it leads to him being let go, right? And again, he regrets that he didn't fight further against this, right? This approach. And, you know, perhaps that even explains his ranking, right? It looks like he has been frozen in the same spot in terms of promotions and all that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it was really great to explore Armstrong's character in this capacity. It really was. And, you know, the gentle giant, the heart of gold, you know, that all remains. But, you know, the opposing side is going to see the giant part of it for sure. You know, I'm excited for Armstrong's inclusion in all of this now. Though, of course, you know, the approach has to be quite different, right? You know, in that sense, it was a great episode for kind of setting up the stage for the next part of this story. Because, yeah, it was certainly an aftermath. It was certainly a reality check, lessons learned, but now you go again. Now, the new struggle, or perhaps the new key after all of this, is to move ahead, right? To find a different path, a unique path, something different, right? A new opportunity. And I'm sure there's many new opportunities that might present themselves, new and exciting opportunities. Because of course, as one door closes, other doors might open up, right? Even though, you know, it's been quite the setback for all of them, essentially, it doesn't mean that, you know, they didn't come out the other end empty-handed. They have a lot, actually. They do. But then again, of course, you know, Father, the homunculi, King Bradley specifically, they feel safe enough to let them in on all of this, right? It's a unique situation, isn't it? Because you have both sides, right? Though there's more than just two sides here, right? I think in the grand scheme of things. But for the matter of this discussion at the moment, you know, Father, King Bradley, homunculi, and you know, Mustang, Ed and Al, and some of the players on this side, they know about each other, right? It's like this open secret. They all know about each other. And the crazy thing is, King Bradley, Father, homunculi, they can take them out at a moment's notice if they really needed to, right? But they're keeping them alive because they are, or some of them are, integral to their plans. So it's a great dynamic. But on the opposite end, you have these characters like Mustang, and again, the rest of that side, who know this. They know, you know, they've experienced it. They know they're at their mercy, right? But they also know that they have this, I don't know, they have a bit of space here in the sense that they also know that, okay, they cannot just be killed off. Though, you know, there are some sins that could be driven to that point. You see Lust at one point was down to kill Mustang, even though Mustang is not an important resource, but he is an important candidate to be a sacrifice. But again, you know, they don't want to kill him, but Lust got to that point. You know, it kind of reframes that scene as well, right? King Bradley outside as Lust is being defeated. You know, I think he actually would have jumped in there if either Alphonse or Mustang ended up in actual danger of dying. I mean, it was really quite dangerous, but I think at a moment's notice, he was ready to get in there if Lust kind of overstepped that line. But let's circle back and finish that point about them having to take a different approach now, right? Because they are going to be scrutinized, right, for any semblance of rebellion. But of course, you know, the new challenge that is being presented now is quite exciting, isn't it? You know, having to find a different path to their goals despite the limitations, the recent limitations that have been placed on them, right? The recent setbacks. Also, before I go further back into the episode, I did check out the ending because I was told it's okay to check out the ending, but not the opening, not till episode 34. And of course, they also did that transition, right? The fade in, the lead into the ending song as well. And then, of course, that leads into the post-credit scene as well. Sometimes it's a bit more effective than others, for sure, right? The fade in, the lead in. And I was actually quite happy that Winry was the actual focus of the ending, or most of it at least, because Lan Fan and Mei Chang also come in. So I thought maybe, it's more of a female character-centric ending, and that's great. That's great. So I was kind of expecting Riza Hawkeye to show up in that ending as well, but, I just got those three. But yeah, clearly she looks much older. And then, of course, you see a bit more of that in the earlier scene as well, right? The phone booth, the phone call. I mean, there's some similarities, some parallels to the, not the Mustang, the Mace Hughes phone booth scene, right? That scene, of course. This one wasn't as dark or wasn't full of death, because ultimately there is another homunculus that's standing right outside, though it plays out in a different manner here. I mean, you've got Greed or Ling Greed showing up, and once again kind of showing us that Greed has a different disposition, a different take on things, for sure. Hell, he even kind of gives them a heads up in terms of how they behave, in terms of reacting to certain things, reacting to their friends on the phone, and that the Sins kind of latch onto something like that, right? So I don't know, man. I'm getting that Greed back that I enjoyed so much. I'm already seeing signs of it again. It's just it's crazy that I actually have this, Ling and Greed together. And of course, Ling makes an appearance a few times. First of all, it's indicated that, of course, he has to appear to be able to write it out, right? So Lan Fan can get the message. And then, of course, in retaliation, he takes over, right? Makes an appearance. He lets King Bradley know, or Wrath, for that matter, that, do not underestimate humans. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm certainly not going to underestimate Ling. No, not at all. But, I loved King Bradley's reaction to that. This is a stoic individual, right? Calm, composed, ice cold, ruthless, at all times at ease at all times, right? It really takes a lot to get him riled up, right? I've seen that too, but, to see that reaction, a foreign agent, essentially, even though it is Ling's body, taking over one of the Sins, right? Because, they do share some similarities here, because Greed is inside of a human's body, much like how Wrath, or King Bradley's body, was taken over by Wrath, right? So there is that connection there, or that understanding there. The rest of the Sins are not like that, right? The ones I've seen so far, at least, Pride, I kind of got some kind of an appearance for Pride. And then there's also Sloth, who I saw the one time, right? There's a quick flash. It appeared to be underground. I don't know. I'll actually kind of go back to that. I'm going to go try and find out the episode that was in and go back to that moment, right? Maybe after, 15 or 10, 12 episodes. I'm not sure how long it's been now since I saw Sloth, or that glimpse of Sloth. Maybe a bit more context to that shot. I don't know. I'll have to go back and check. But I do remember Sloth being underground, doing something, right? Clearly, Sloth is busy doing something, right? So that in itself is quite telling as well, isn't it? In terms of the grand scheme of things and plans and all that. So let's see if I can maybe extract something from going back to that scene, that quick glimpse of Sloth. But yeah, Ling, he's around. He's certainly around. And, that really excites me. That, like I said, that character arc now appears to be intrinsically linked, right? Both Greed and Ling's character arcs. So that's one of the most exciting things about the story at this point. And that just happened in the last episode. See, that's the thing about this story, man. It just keeps giving you more and more to latch onto and more to enjoy and be excited about. But yeah, going back to, the ending and Winry looking much older, clearly physically looking older. So is Ed, right? I think that's by design, that he is looking older, right? Otherwise I wouldn't have noticed, right? He legitimately, in a few of those frames, looks different. Like he's been drawn in a different manner that makes you notice growth. Even though earlier on in the shower scene, you see him kind of, take some of that hair and point it up to gain a few inches on that height, right? So I thought that was really quite clever and funny as well, and kind of, always leaning into that insecurity he has about being short. Though, I'm noticing his growth. He's getting there. He's starting to grow. Though, of course, they've explained one of the possible reasons for, his stunted growth as well. Listen, man, some people can be late bloomers. I think he'll get there. I was just joking about how he might actually end up looking like Mei Chang's perfect vision of the Fullmetal Alchemist, right? He might actually end up looking something like that. Maybe not as, Prince Charming and pretty, but I think he might end up looking like that at some point of the story, in the conclusion, in the closing segments of the story, perhaps, right? So it's exciting. It's exciting to see that aspect of it, to see our boy grow in that capacity as well, physically. But of course, he's certainly thinking of the right questions and the right possibilities, because, they kind of give us a further indication in terms of the range of Father's control. It appears that it might have been all of Central that was affected by this. Of course, they're depicting that through the other alchemists that showed up, the local alchemists that showed up to help, but they proved to be ineffective because alchemy was nullified at that moment in time. But, Father made sure to put it back into motion, right? That, okay, alchemy is good now. Perhaps, he didn't want to bring too much attention to the fact that it possibly might be just Central that alchemy has been nullified in. Though, of course, it's not confirmed yet. It could be on a large scale, the entire country. The planet, I'm not sure. But, one thing is for sure, Hohenheim felt it. But Ed, in his quick thinking, his clever nature is certainly on display here. He certainly, deduced that, okay, their alchemy was functional, right? Scar, and of course, they showed us that Scar's brother, he dabbled in alkahestry, and that was certainly a big part of his own studies and his alchemy, right? His arms. Though Scar only ended up getting the destruction part of it, or portion of it, still alkahestry, right? Clearly, because it was effective, it was functional. Then, of course, Mei Chang. So he's on the right path, that alkahestry could be a key in terms of fighting Father, or in terms of opposing Father in the homunculi, or learning about alkahestry could prove to be an exciting new opening, for sure. And of course, I do believe that alkahestry comes from his own father, Hohenheim. So again, that whole concept of full circle bonds and connections, it's all exciting stuff. So, if Al goes down that path, I mean, first of all, he's going to have to speak with Mei Chang, and then potentially Scar once he concludes his business. And I suppose I should go back and kind of give my final thoughts on that. Perhaps he could give him a mercy killing, Dr. Marco, that is. Or it could be a mix of, okay, yeah, he played his part, so he deserves some punishment, but also I can see that this man, he has a lot of regret, right? That he's in pain himself as well. And on some level, I think Scar can relate, because Scar himself also carries a lot of regrets, a lot of pain, in terms of some of the suffering he's caused. Even though, he wasn't in the right mental capacity, he doesn't make any excuses about that, right? Killing the rock bells, killing those doctors, those amazing people. So yeah, let's see how that plays out. But, kind of going back to conclude the point about the phone call, I love the dynamic there. It was so cute, super sweet, of course. You see that on one end, Winry's accepted that she has fallen for Ed, and she's accepted that, right? She's not fighting against it. She's leaning into it. Those are her true feelings. Why exactly should she be fighting them? There's a great shot of her taking the phone cord and twirling it, right? Wrapping it around her finger. So a lot of great visual storytelling there as well. Though, it was pretty clear that she was quite moved by this, that it meant so much to her, right? And I think it's really important that Ed also finds this out by the end of that phone call, even though at times he's, defensive, and yeah, some of it's used for comedic effect, but by the end of it, you could tell that he's beginning to understand how much this means to her, right? That he did call, that he did check in. But yeah, to end it off, Greed outside of the phone booth, right, came all the way here, tracked them down to give them Ling's message, right? He didn't have to do any of that, right? He didn't have to. And again, you see that, sorry, not Ling, Greed does not have the same type of malice that many of these sins do. And the really cool thing about this setup is that Greed actually knows about Ling's presence, that he is able to take over from time to time, right? And you see, just like Ling wasn't rejecting any of it, right? You see that Greed is not really that, affected by it, or he's not really that concerned by it. Greed is also going with the flow. But then let's shift to Hawkeye and Mustang. I love that dynamic so much. You see Mustang, he realizes, oh my goodness, Lieutenant, and he runs out there, and of course Armstrong notices, oh, you look pale. So she was out there that whole time, right? The whole time. Of course, as expected. But I love how there's these moments that they both kind of drop the formalities, right? And they speak the way they want to speak to each other. But then they catch themselves almost immediately, right? And then they go back to, the professional, formal approach as to not show how they really truly feel about each other and the concern that they carry for each other at all times. But I think it's really depicted quite nicely, quite effectively through the changes in the eyes, the animation of the eyes, for both Mustang and Hawkeye. I thought it was so effective. It was so effective. And of course, the facial animation as well. That's a great dynamic, isn't it? Clearly, they care for each other, perhaps romantically as well. There's certainly hints of that, quite unmissable at this point. But, they keep it professional, or as professional as possible, given the nature of the thing they're a part of. But to end it off, how about Mustang? Or the things he was saying inside that car, right? It was a great scene, right? The Armstrong, Hawkeye, and Mustang scene. It was something along the lines of, the only time I'm reminded of being just human is anytime I'm fighting real monsters, right? Fighting the homunculi. That is the only time he's able to kind of remember or kind of be reminded of his own humanity, right? Wow, how about that? This is an individual that has kind of accepted his role in the Civil War. He's accepted that everything that is thrown at him is justified, that he is a monster, that he is this dog of the military. But yeah, Roy Mustang, quite the character, of course, alongside a plethora of amazing characters, right? So it's exciting. It really is quite exciting. So if you enjoyed this, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access, and at this point, there should be 3 early access episodes, and at some point it is going to go to 4 as well, or perhaps full length. If you're interested in any of those things, consider checking out the Patreon page. The link is in the description, in the pinned comment. Also links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.